Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Okay, before we get into this episode, which is all about modern dating, I wanted to mention that I have something really exciting coming up. It is new to kick start things for anyone who is wanting to date, to flirt, and really know how to make a great first impression. For the first time ever, I am doing a special hybrid virtual speed dating event for the holidays where you will learn the key points of making incredible first impressions and have a chance to meet singles I have handpicked just for you. I am not going to probably do this many more times. So if this sounds interesting, definitely hop on here. This is for you. If you feel kind of rusty and dusty or completely out of practice with all of this stuff and you're not sure why you're not progressing on dates, or you struggle to put yourself out there and engage in conversations, this is happening December 11th, but you have to register soon. Obviously, seats are going to be limited because I need time to match you all. So just go to stophatingdating.com. That's stophatingdating.com to register and sign up. And I hope to see you there. And now we are going to start the episode. What is it about men with social standing that makes them so captivating? I mean, it's not, hear me out, it is not just about the money. It's not just about the power. It's a lot more. It's kind of the subtle art of maybe creating that strong frame, earning respect, exuding a magnetic presence that naturally draws people in. And you've seen these guys all the time. And there's actually studies that show that women are attracted to a man's social status and leadership skills. And throughout history and across cultures, social dynamics have influenced the game of attraction, and it's shifted throughout the years, obviously. But while individual preferences vary, there is a consistent pattern in what many women find appealing and in potential partners. And one such factor is a man's ability to maintain their ground in a social setting and command respect from his peers, from women, everybody. And that really does drive attraction. And it comes from the evolutionary standpoint. I mean, men are often perceived as strong, capable providers and protectors. And historically, these traits were vital for survival. Whether we like it or not, this existed. And we still have that. We're all cavemen, cave women, so to speak. It's just manifests itself differently, I think, in the modern dating world. But overall, that kind of man seems more likely to provide a stable environment for future family planning, ensuring both emotional and financial security. Now, the whole theory gets even more blurred with modern dating and how masculine and feminine energy has been changing. I talk about this all the time in my workshops with men and women when we do these, co-ed experiences. And, men are getting scared to approach women, and women feel that men aren't approaching anymore. And so we're at a standstill. And on top of it, if you are a little shy, if you're a little introverted, you have some social anxiety, now we have a whole other layer that's overwhelming. And I hear all the time that men who often get put in the friend zone get discouraged. And they'll say to me, women just want assholes, basically. They don't like nice guys. And that's just simply not true. There was a man who I worked with recently, and he was the typical nice guy who got put in the friend zone all the time. And in regular social settings, here's the thing. He was kind of shy. He was a little bit passive. He didn't stand his ground. His wardrobe definitely needed work, which obviously I had to take care of first. His body language seemed anxious. All of these things were causing him to not approach women, and for women to not even see him. Now, here's the thing that was super interesting. There was one setting where he shined, where he was the leader, where women would come up to him. And it was the only setting, and that was karaoke. So it was the thing that made him feel confident, where he suddenly had swagger when he would go up there and sing and all of that. And so it was literally taking some of those skills that he honed in on at karaoke and apply that to his everyday life. And Yes, I have a before and after picture that I will post about his wardrobe because he looked like a completely different guy. And when he walked out with, the swagger and the style, his body confidence grew also, and also the signals that he sent to women improved. And I'm happy to say that after coaching and doing my retreats and all that, he just like tagged me in a post saying that he found a girlfriend and he's so happy, and I they've been dating for a while now. I just didn't know about it until recently. So all of this is really important, and so while we're really talking about men and the confidence, I also want women to hear that, you know, men want the same thing as women. I think that often men get a bad rap. So I really want to dedicate this episode to men and see that it is important. Today, I have a dynamic guy who is definitely going to help me with this topic. He knows how to claim status and leadership for sure. And he's going to help me explore why this quality is so attractive to women, how it influences relationships, but most importantly, how you can develop it for yourself. He resolved to distill everything he had learned through study and experience, high status networking leadership, present moment awareness, evolutionary psychology, the whole 9 yards, into a coaching community called Men of Action. It's super awesome, y'all. He has launched the Michael Sartain podcast, where his guests have included some of the most prominent thought leaders in networking, business, and evolutionary psychology. He has also launched the panel podcast Access Vegas with author Rollo Tomasi, where men and women debate the most pressing issues affecting dating, mating, and relationships in America. I must be on that panel. And today he is recognized as one of the leading experts in high status networking, social circle building, and masculine self improvement. But more importantly, we rediscovered each other. We knew each other when we were on Great Love Debate. Hi, Brian Howie. We are reconnected. Michael Sartain, are you there?
Yes. Hey, what's going on? Good to be here,
Hey,
Kim.
I know, so good to have you here. And you were just super smart. Like we were talking off air and you were just rattling off all these statistics and research, and I was like, "Oh my God, let's just push play already." So I guess I really don't know like your whole backstory. I know that you come from the finance world, but I would love for you to just share your story and how you got into doing this now.
I think my story, if you want to go all the way back, it's a story that a lot of men come to. A lot of men have this experience where there's a point in their life where they have a crush on a girl and she doesn't like them, but some of the men are smart enough to take a look at who she does actually like, and that was something that I was really good at. Just almost like when you think about the front office of a sports team that's always scouting for new talent. For me, instead of looking at the girls, I would always look at like who are the guys that these women would pick. And this started all the way back me working in nightlife back in 1999 in Austin, Texas on 6th Street. And then later on, from there, I worked in nightlife until maybe '04. And then afterwards, I joined the military from '04 to 2011. And during that time, actually watching leadership qualities, good leaders versus bad leaders, how accountability and integrity kind of formed up. And then when I got to Las Vegas in like 2011, I noticed these two worlds sort of clash where I, I was told one thing about what women found attractive, and then I would go watch it in practice, and I saw it's not that what I was being told was wrong or deliberately misleading. What I was being told was incomplete. Like, for instance, an example I bring is women saying that they want to date a guy who's more vulnerable, when reality, what they're saying is they want to date a guy they're attracted to who's more vulnerable. And because women leave that part out, if you had a homeless person come up to you and was like, hey, here's some flowers, I'm more vulnerable, here's some problems I'm dealing with today, you're not going to become more sexually attracted to that man because he did that. And a lot of women don't, they leave that portion out. And so what I started to realize was I only paid attention to what was working, and I stopped paying so much attention to what pop psychologists, traditional dating coaches, matchmakers, and pickup artists were telling me. And I only watched guys who were like crushing it with women and couples that had been together, like, say, more than 10 years. And I was like, okay, this is what actually works as opposed to what we want to think works. Initially in the whole pickup days, there wasn't a lot of politics, or no one cared about body count back then. There was no morality. Then later on, you saw that kind of squeeze into the red pill days with the trad cons and stuff like that. So throughout time, I've just been trying to pay attention more and more to what actually worked as opposed to what people said worked. Then came along probably 2015. I was introduced to Dr. David Buss from the University of Texas at Austin, who's the world's foremost evolutionary psychologist. And I started to read his work and then relate his work to real life, either anecdotal experiences that I had, experiences that I knew other guys had, or experiences that my now 3,000 clients had had. And I found that the prescriptions or the descriptions from evolutionary psychology are almost 100% of the time correct.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Yeah.
and describe human mating patterns and behavior with a greater accuracy than anything I've ever seen in from any other author or specifically anything else in psychology. And so when I found that, then I just tried to figure out a way, how can I apply these ideas that I learned from evolutionary psychology? Like basically the shy guy who becomes a club promoter and then all of a sudden has a super hot girlfriend. He's dated like hundreds of women. And then how do I take what are the things that happen there and how do I equate that to scientific studies? Dr. Buss is one of the top 10 most cited psychologists on planet Earth today. How do
Mm.
I find out like how that matches up? And so you find out about concepts like mate choice copying, which I think is the single most underrated thing that men can use to generate attraction. And then how social hierarchy, dominance hierarchies work, and then also how social status or social proof works. And so I took all these lessons and I applied them to things that I'd actually seen living in San Antonio, Abu Dhabi, Las Vegas, Dallas, Los Angeles, those different places, and then Miami, and then tried to see like how it all fit together. And when I started teaching the course, one of the things that I noticed was the results that the guys got, and the course grew, it like quadrupled every year because I
Wow.
didn't realize that no one else was teaching this. Like no one teaches leadership
Yeah.
in combination with dating. No one teaches that. Like I've never seen anyone else teach that besides me. And then no one in the self-help space was actually teaching the how networking and dating or intersexual dynamics are actually they lead to the same place. And so when I started doing that, I didn't realize how needed it was in this space because I didn't see anybody else teaching. Like I know a lot of guys who teach evolutionary psychology concepts and a lot of guys who teach dating. There's very few people who actually, in every step of the way, combine the two ideas. So that's how I got into this. But to answer your question, Kim, I started coaching in 2008. This current company I'm in right now is 2019 is when we started it. So for about 11 years, I was coaching for like no money. I was just a guy that people would ask to come speak on stage at different places. And then in 2019, we started our own company.
Wow, that's awesome. Like, how is all the things that you've learned throughout this? I mean, obviously, you've done a ton of research and you've got kind of the methodology nailed down. How have you
Mhm.
applied it to your personal life? Like, have you tested it out yourself? And was there a journey with that as well?
So Kim, it's actually I was doing it and then read the topics afterwards. Just like if you read
Ah,
if you read Alex Hormozy had a
uh-huh.
$115 million exit from his company before he wrote his books. Right. So it was one of
Right.
these situations where like he knew what worked and then just applied it to whatever data was out there. It was the same situation for me. It's like I had been around dating coaches and guys who were
Mhm.
really, really, really good with women for years and dated a lot of women before I got into the evolutionary psychology stuff. But what I found is that the Evo Psych stuff never really disagreed with anything that I had seen empirically. And I mean, never, Kim. Like I can't even think of a single example where I saw evolutionary psychology get anything wrong. And that to the point
Mhm.
where it was frightening, like how I'm listening to these academics like, Jeffrey Miller or Stephen Stewart Williams. I'm listening to David Buss and William Costello and these other evolutionary psychologists, and they're I agree with every single thing they're saying, and because I'm out there living it, and they're doing
Yeah.
surveys on thousands and thousands of people, and I found that what they're saying is to be just it's really really accurate. So it was one of the situations where did I learn it and apply it to my life? Sort of. I think what it did was it became a better teaching tool for me when guys had doubts. Like for instance, a
Mhm.
guy who gets no attraction from women, being coming off as a player isn't a bad thing. I'm sorry, I don't care what your mom told you, what your ex-girlfriend told you, and it's always going to be some super good looking guy friend who tells you that coming off as a player is bad. No, man, listen, coming off as a player is for especially for a guy who has no attraction triggers with women is not that bad of a deal because those guys because what happens is what you don't want is to be put in the friend zone. It's great to put women in the friend
Mhm.
zone. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a real. And if there's one piece of advice I would give men is put as many women in the friend zone as possible. Putting women in the friend zone actually spreads like a disease because once one woman you like puts you in the friend zone and she tells other women about it, it becomes progressively harder in that social circle for you to be seen as a viable sexual object.
Yeah, well, and I want to, and I do want to get away from that too. I want to also debunk some of the myths and the bad
Yeah.
rap that
Yeah.
guys get because to your point, some of it, a lot of it is primal. I talk about that too in a different way.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you say, which is actually congruent with what I teach, is I think dating is a skill.
Mm.
And the skills that you learn apply to life, it applies to business, it apply, so the likability factor, the attraction factor is more important than probably anything else in making a connection or people moving on with you, whether in business and
Yeah.
love. So I feel like we're speaking the same language, but we're attacking it in a different way. Um, I would love to go over because I'm sure we see similar patterns with men. What are some of the mistakes that men often make? And maybe like as they're coming to you and they don't
Yeah.
have that attraction factor, right? Like what are
Yeah.
some of the pitfalls?
Yeah, so most men who come to you or me have an attraction problem. Very few of them have a
Right,
comfort
right.
problem.
Yeah.
So most of the guys, so you can have a comfort problem or an attraction problem. A couple guys do have a comfort problem, but it's very rare. Most of you watching this don't have a comfort problem. You have an attraction problem. Most women are not attracted to you. Even if you're a guy who's dated a lot of women, still most women aren't attracted to you. And when you look on the eHarmony survey, that the famous one that shows that women find 80% of men to be below average attractiveness, whereas with men it's 50-50. Men find average looking women to be average looking and good looking women to be good looking. Women find average looking men to be unattractive. So it's one of these situations where men will right swipe 55% of the time on dating apps. Women
Well,
will
that's
right
why
swipe
I do
about,
so many manovers because at
yeah.
least we can do something with your clothes.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Eh,
I get to go on.
yeah, exactly. What was the original question? I got sidetracked
Yeah,
off
it's
what we're
okay.
talking
I
about.
know I
Yes.
derailed you. It was just
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
like some of the mistakes that guys
Yeah. Yeah.
make
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
in
Okay.
creating attraction. Yeah.
So one of the big problems is the guys want good guy attraction and bad guy attraction to get the good girl or the bad girl. So one of the things I need you to
Ah.
understand is one of the confusing things is when we were growing up, we had the Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. We knew Hulk Hogan was the good guy and
He
we
was
knew the Iron
very
Sheik was the bad guy.
distinguished.
It was
Yes.
very distinguished. We understood. We watched Rocky 4 and Rocky was the good American guy and Ivan Drago was the bad Russian guy. It was very clear. We had clear good guy status and bad guy status. Now we have Iron Man and Captain America. They're both good guys. But Iron Man is a scoundrel and Captain America is a paragon. One of the things that we have to understand is that status is status is status. Guys who are scoundrels who cheat on their girlfriends. Machine Gun Kelly got Megan Fox. Remember, you wanted Megan Fox, but Machine Gun Kelly got Megan Fox. This dude who
Yeah.
had multiple orgies and he dresses in a pink dress. He got Megan Fox. You didn't get Megan Fox, right? You see, like people, you see situations where nobody cares. O.J. Simpson got offered millions of dollars to do a fantasy football podcast after being charged with murder. We see situations where Colonel Oliver North was part of the Iran-Contra affair and became a contributor on Fox News. We saw a situation where, what's his name? Jordan Belfort, in a movie they make about him, he punches his wife in the stomach, kidnaps his own kid, and now he's one of the most sought-after sales trainers in the world. Status is status is status. So the idea that there's good guy status and bad guy status, that's over with now. The Rock was a good guy. Now The Rock, I'm sorry to use wrestling examples,
No,
but for
but
a
this
lot of
is
guys, they
good.
wrestlers
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the heel face turn.
Mhm.
It's being more higher status. The example I like to use is there's a guy out here who's watching this, and you have a great idea, and you want to get investors for your great idea. Who can get to venture capitalists faster, you or Jake Paul? And they'll be like, well, Jake Paul can. It's like, well, the thing is, even if you work in venture capital, Jake Paul can still get access to venture capitalists faster than you because he's famous. The reality is we live in an attention economy and there's no good guy status or bad guy status. But here's the part that really crushes guys' mentality is the concept of the good girl and the bad girl. The problem is when you see this a lot of times on these panel shows where guys will be on there like, this girl's a slut. Oh my God, these girls are ugly. And what's happening is these men are putting up a wall to protect themselves from rejection. If you're calling a woman a name and she wouldn't date you, what does that say about you? The reality is most men aren't attractive to women. And what they're doing is like, Michael, how do I use these attraction triggers to get a good girl? And my response is, bro, you can't get any girl. Stop worrying about getting a good girl. And this is really controversial. The girl who's a virgin in Kentucky and the porn star in Los Angeles succumb to the same attraction triggers. Let me say that again. The
Mhm.
virgin in Kentucky and the porn star in Los Angeles succumb to the same attraction triggers. You don't need to become attractive to the good girl or the bad girl. You need to become attractive, period. And men have a hard time with this. This is why one of the biggest ones that I find, and this is not for everyone, but the guys are like, oh, Michael, I don't want to show pre-selection or make choice copying pictures on my social media because I come off as a player, a player. Guys, most of you would be lucky to come off as a player. Most of you guys have such a problem with attraction and you get friend zoned so often that coming off as a player would be far better, more advantageous than what you're doing now. Kim, I read this unbelievable statistic. On Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, 68% of men report meeting someone on the app that they got into a platonic, non-sexual relationship with. What does that mean? Let me translate for you.
Uh,
68% of men on dating apps got friend zoned.
hmm
68%
Wow.
of men. Do you want to know what players don't get? Players don't get friend zoned. Players
Right.
don't get guys. If you're one getting friend zoned all the time, you might want to consider a player motif. A player that might not be the worst thing in the world for you, especially for certain parts of your life. I think men should experiment. I think men should. I don't. I remember Myron Gaines had a very controversial quote. He goes, "Men should not even consider getting married until you've slept with 50 women." I'm not going to say that. What I do think though is 50 women need to find you attractive. I don't think you need to sleep with hundreds of women, but hundreds of women need to find you attractive. And so many of you out there are just so concerned because of the your upbringing of finding this perfect woman to marry. And like, if I, gentlemen, if you're watching this right now, and I came up with a way to create some event where you met the woman of your dreams that you're supposed to marry, you're still a loser. She's not going to be attracted to you. You don't know how to talk to her. You don't know how to dress. You are in terrible shape. You have a gut with like string bean arms. Women are not interested in you. You need to learn to be attractive so that when I introduce you to the woman of your dreams, she's attracted to you. I can introduce you to the woman of your dreams 100 times over. She's just going to pass you over and put you in the friend zone, just like the women that you call names. It's all the same because our attraction triggers are evolutionary, meaning they are ubiquitous amongst Homo sapien males and females. And if that is the case, you need to learn to become attractive in person instead of just trying to say, Michael, how do I get the good girl? Number one mistake I see with guys is they're judgmental towards women in the beginning. Dude, no girls like you. Why? How are you being judgmental? And then number two, they're trying to get the good girl and they're not, they're like, Michael, I don't like the fact that you work at bikini competitions. Those are not the type of girls I like. I'm like, bro, you should be lucky if any girl at bikini competitions even looks at you twice, buddy. Like, seriously. And they have these serious problems. And then the last one is they paint over their serious problems with attraction triggers with money. That's one of the biggest
Oh
ones.
yeah. Yeah.
Using money to paint over your attraction issues
Right.
is like a heroin addiction, and there's no way to get off. It's like somebody who abuses steroids; they'll never get that big again without taking more steroids. It's the same. If you lead with money, you always have to lead with money. The worst clients I get, Kimmy, the most challenging clients I get are the ones who use money to lead. They lead with money with women, and then they don't understand that they receive no attraction from these women. These women are giving them false signs of attraction in order to get their money. And when you explain this to these men, because they've never been attracted to women, they're the hardest people to coach because they think they have. They were born on third base and thought they hit a triple. And trying to get them out of this, where they basically pay women, they pay girls who they consider to be tens to go on dates. And then when I take them out in the real world and they get rejected by a woman that they would consider to be a six, their brains can't handle it. And they're some of the hardest clients I get. Men who lead with money are some of the hardest clients to fix.
I love these are great, and the way that you're framing it is also, I think, so refreshing to hear from just, an honest standpoint and as a guy, because obviously I work with men and women, and I hear women complaining about stuff like this that you're talking
Yeah.
about. But what I really want to highlight is the fact that you're actually empowering men. I want everyone to hear that because it isn't really about the woman. I think too many times, and by the way, women do this too. We worry so much about what the other person thinks and feels and not enough of us. Because it's really at the end of the day, it's us. It's us looking in the mirror and saying, I'm sexy. I got it going on. It's not about the other person. And I think that's what happens when people fall into the nice girl or the nice guy syndrome is they're so worried about other people, over caretaking, too nice,
Well,
right? Like
yeah.
they're not setting boundaries, they're not looking and holding their
Yeah.
own. And so
So
it
so
works both ways.
let me disabuse these gentlemen of misunderstanding we often get. No,
Yeah.
women want the asshole. They don't want the nice guy
Right,
like me.
right.
No, it is not that this man is an asshole. It's that this man is the first man she's ever experienced who told her no. That's what's happened. She has never experienced a boundary from a man. I have work. My previous relationship, there were situations where this girl was she was always she's from Arkansas. She's always the prettiest girl everywhere she went. She never used to either. And she also, her parents were divorced, so she had two families, and they would never tell her no. No one would tell her no. She would go to work. She was a bartender. No one would tell her no. She'd show up late for work. No one would tell her no. No matter what she did, no one would ever tell her no. She meets me, and it's like, hey, you're incredibly beautiful, but I've been with other beautiful women before, number one. And then number two, just to let you know, if you're wrong about something, I'm going to let you know. And also, my job when work comes, work comes. We're not going to stop doing work because you're having an emotional outburst. No one had ever done that for her before, which actually made her more attracted because she'd never had anyone tell her no. Gentlemen, women don't want assholes, but there are men who are assholes who set clear boundaries. And it's the first time this woman has ever had anyone set clear boundaries with them. And they're feeling a pang of attraction that they can't explain. And then when it doesn't work out later, then what they do is they retroactively go back and they fit asshole, narcissist. They stick the narcissist label on the relationship or on that guy when he wasn't a narcissist. Do an experiment. If you guys have any female friends and they complain about their exes or their boyfriends being narcissists, go out of your way to meet the guy and meet him. And I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, he's just a normal dude. He was like, yeah, I met Sally and I told her I didn't want to be in a relationship. And she's like, okay, that's fine. And then she kept trying to change me and make me be in a relationship with her. And I kept telling her I'm not going to be in a relationship. And I was seeing other women. And then she caught me with another woman and she was crying. And I told her, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like I told you I was going to be seeing other women. I wasn't interested in a monogamous relationship. She kept crying. And then she started throwing things at me and called me a narcissist and an asshole. And then you listen to the story. It's like, oh, wow, you're not a narcissist at all. You just had boundaries. You're the first man to ever tell her no and to not accept her frame, but instead keep your own frame. And so that's what you're going to find a lot of times, man. The reason why women find you outrageously attractive is because you're the first man that they've ever experienced, especially if they're very physically attractive. You're the first man that they've ever experienced that told them no. You're the first man that they've ever experienced who was like, they wanted you to come over in the middle of the night and like, order them food and hang out with them and watch a movie. And they're like, no, I have to get ready. I have a presentation tomorrow. And you said no. You turned down sex with a beautiful woman because you understood that you had boundaries and other priorities. And when you did that, it made them outrageously attractive. But instead of recognizing that you're just a more attractive man, what they said is, oh, this guy's a narcissist. That's what happened.
Yeah, and there's two sides to this too. And just from a woman's standpoint too, for you listening, if you're a woman, is that what we're talking about is boundaries. And when a man is able to do it in a way that's healthy, it makes the woman feel safe. And from an evolutionary standpoint, absolutely. Like we need that from the man to make us feel safe and protected. And when you set that boundary in a good way, we do that. But I think so here's the thing, and I want to talk a little bit about this like boundary setting as we're exploring it, because like my women that I work with a lot of times gets confused like what you say, because they'll meet a true narcissist. And I say this as a therapist.
Yes.
There are
Yes.
distinctions, right?
Yes.
They'll encounter a narcissist and they'll be attracted to that because seemingly he's setting boundaries and feels strong, but really inside, a narcissist is actually very weak inside,
Yes.
so
Yes.
it
It's
gets
a great discussion.
very
Yeah.
confusing for women. Can you just like talk a
Yes.
little bit
Okay.
about that and
So
how you teach it?
let's see how we can differentiate between the two things. And
Yeah.
this is mostly advice for women. If you're dealing with a true narcissist, it's
Yeah.
going to bleed into every part of his life. Like for instance, if a woman like I got two cats I just rescued right here. Like I do nothing but charity work. My friend, I've had the same friend group for like 25 years, and I have a pretty good reputation in business. If you wanted to call me a narcissist, it would be very difficult because it clearly I'm just a narcissist in my relationship, but it doesn't bleed into other parts of my life. There's
Yeah.
other people like when someone's a true narcissist, what you're going to find is that they're without exception, because narcissism is pervasive through every part of their life. You're not going to find someone who's like a good person in every area, but like a narcissist in a relationship. What happened was you're probably dealing with a man who set boundaries with you, or he wasn't as into you as you were into him, and the rejection made you feel like he was a narcissist. A true narcissist, you're going to find where it's like there's no empathy for certain situations, and there's almost confusion. It's like, why are you upset at me? Like, I don't even understand what I did wrong. Like a lack of what's the word
Well, there's
I'm looking for?
gaslighting is kind of like what
Yeah.
you're
So
too. Yeah.
the gaslighting is too,
Mhm.
but like the thing is, the way you can kind of differentiate the two is look at
Yeah.
his actions and not his words. If his actions and his words coincide, you're probably not dealing with a narcissist. You're
Yeah.
just dealing with a man who has boundaries. If his actions clearly over and over again, you've caught him lying, and also this is a big one, lying for no reason. Lying when the truth would do, lying for absolutely no reason, that's when you probably are dealing with a narcissist. But ladies, I'm telling you, it's 1 out of 20 of you. It's about
Mhm.
one, about four, less, maybe 1 out of 25 of you who's dealing with an actual NPD candidate. And the other 19 of you are just dealing with a guy who like really wasn't that into you, and then you conflate his behavior with narcissism. That's the issue. And so there's nowhere near as many narcissists on this planet to match up with all the women who say they dated a narcissist. I mean, I'll be in a room with 20 women. I'll say, how many of you guys have dated one narcissist? And every one of them raise their hand. I'm like, that's the math doesn't work out that way. Like that doesn't work. Now, here's the other issue for evolutionary reasons that we could go into, dark triad traits, which Dr. Buss calls them, Dr. David Buss, dark triad traits are going to be sociopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. Um, most of the attraction triggers, Kim, actually come from one of those three, which is narcissism. It actually, most women are not attracted to sociopaths. It happens sometimes, like for instance, you see with hybristophilia, the whole Wade Wilson killer. But for the most part, women are not attracted to sociopaths or people who are Machiavellian. Majority of that attraction comes from narcissism. And the thing is, it's these men are able to fake cues, but
Yeah.
they're also able to manipulate and climb through social ladders, which may have been a survival characteristic that was beneficial to women back in the day. So who knows? I mean, it's tough to explain why that is, but yes, women tend to have a proclivity to be more attracted to men who show signs of narcissism.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that we're talking about this because both men and women, I think, have a hard time understanding all of that. And so what happens is that there's a lot of fear out there, and
Hmm.
people are walking around with these love shields on in fear of attracting, the wrong person. And then there's this like polarization happening, right? Because
Yeah.
then people are like, "Oh, well, I'm dating a nice guy, but I'm not attracted to him." And then they'll
Yes.
date an asshole and but he's an asshole. So it's like, where is it somewhere in between kind of thing?
Yeah.
And the pendulum has gone so far, like in either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're talking about. It's like how
I
we can teach this in
yeah.
a healthy way.
So what happens is there's an evolutionary arms race. There's a great book on this called The Red Queen by Matt Ridley, the evolutionary
Uh-huh.
biologist. So as women become, so it was very deleterious for a woman to have a baby with the wrong man. If she had a baby with the wrong man, then all of a sudden she could be ostracized from the tribe. So women are more selective than men in general. Professor Robert Trivers in the 1970s came up with the concept of parental investment hypothesis, which is in a two gender species, the gender that has more parental investment is always going to be more selective. And the other gender is going to compete with members of the other gender for access to the female. So in this case, with humans, it's men competing with other men for access to females. And so when you see that concept over and over again, what happens is there's this evolutionary arms race. Women become more selective, so men become better at lying to women to get the sexual access. Then women develop attributes to detect when men are lying. Then men develop attributes to counteract that counteraction. Then women develop, and it's this evolutionary arms race where men get better at lying to get sexual access, and women get better at detecting the lying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The thing is that with the narcissists, what they're doing is they've developed a countermeasure that defeats the women. Gaslighting might be an example of that. And so the way to look past that, and this is what I tell everyone, and it's very hard to do this. I have women describe to me the interaction with the guy that they're dating, that go through the entire interaction. Try this, Kim, sometimes. Have them to describe the entire interaction. Now, and then I say, go back and describe the entire interaction again, but remove all the words. Everything you said and everything he said. And then she goes back and she's like, well, he didn't show up this date. He didn't show up this date. He didn't show up this
Oh, I
date. He
like
didn't show up
that.
that. And then it's like,
Yeah.
remove all the words he said. Now tell me again what happened. And she's like, oh, it was there all along. Rule number one in Men of Action, my course, we don't listen to the words. We only pay attention to people's actions. Ladies, if you want to be able to detect a narcissist, it's very simple. Complete. What I'm saying is don't not believe the words or believe the words. Make the effect of the words to be neutral or dispassionately ignore the words and only pay attention to actions. When you do that, you will very clearly see the man's intention. This is something um, it's very difficult to fake. So this is what I would recommend. And by the way, if you're dealing with a business partner, I would tell you to do the same thing.
Oh
Don't pay
God,
attention to
yeah.
the words, only pay attention to action. So whenever I have people come to me and they're very confused because they're getting mixed, you're rarely getting mixed signals by people's actions. The reason why people said I'm getting mixed signals is because words are saying a positive affirmation and actions are showing a negative affirmation.
Yeah.
And so these are my mixed signals. And what I tell people is very simpler. Words have inertia, but they have no mass. They're like a massless particle in physics, like a photon. When you consider that words can create inertia, but words themselves have no inertia. So what I do is remove all the words from the interaction and poof, suddenly I can see the truth. I
That's a
totally understand what's
great
going on.
that's a
It's fantastic.
great way of distinct.
The,
Yes, I love
the
that.
the politician who keeps saying he's going to lower
Yeah.
taxes during his political campaign, and you see consistently he's raised taxes over and over again. This would be an example of just paying attention to their actions, not paying attention to the words. And when you do that, the truth magically reveals itself.
And that's fantastic too, because often, and at least this is what a lot of the women that I deal with is that they get like snowed with those words that are being said because they're
Hmm.
craving attention so much that when
Yeah,
they hear you're so hot, you're so beautiful. And, but then when yeah, the same thing, like when I say, yeah, but what has he done for you? Like
yeah,
what is he doing that
yeah,
shows he cares? And they can't tell me. Like they're like, oh,
yeah.
well, nothing. It's just I like the attention. So that's a really great exercise. I can't believe we're almost like at the top of the hour. So I would love if just like high level, three tips that you would give to guys that could really help them, like if they wanted to get started with that attraction factor, what would it
Yeah.
be?
So the most scalable thing you can do, it's so funny. Kim, you remember there used to be a lot of mom and pop shops back when we were growing up. I'm 47. I don't know. I'm sure you're probably 31, 32, but like,
Oh, I was gonna
yeah,
say, wait a
yeah,
second.
yeah,
What
yeah,
makes you think that I
yeah, yeah. Kim, it's incredible. You have all this wisdom at 25. It's unbelievable.
right? Exactly.
The,
Oh, you
so,
saved
so,
yourself.
so the thing is, back in the day, we remember there were these mom and you would go to one place to get your shoes clean. You go to
Yep.
another place. There'd be a roller skating rink. You'd go to all these different places. So if I wanted to buy some hardware supplies, I would go here, and if I wanted to buy some groceries, I go here. And then all of a sudden, these huge chains moved in. We saw what Amazon did to the mom and pop sort of
Right.
shopping process. It got rid of it. The globalization of retail, what it did is it put all of us in one small place, which is Amazon or Walmart or TikTok shop or whatever. Then what happened is for some reason we didn't expect this to happen in dating, but that's exactly what happened in dating. We started meeting all these people online instead of going to bars. And if you guys go to bars right now, if you're a man, you go to singles bars, you'll notice over the last 15 years, number one, women flaking has quintupled. Women flaking on dates is astronomically high across the board. Every man I've talked to, no matter how attractive he is, women flaking has become a massive problem. And number two, going to these public venues, like nightclubs, brunches, all these different places, there's so few women compared to men in a lot of these venues that used to not be like this. And part of the reason why is, Kim, and we can go into this as a long discussion, because women want attention and men want sexual validation. Men have to go into in real life situations to get sexual validation. Women can go online to get attention. And so because of that, women are being pulled out of the in real life dating market because of OnlyFans, Instagram, because of dating apps, the matchmaking dating apps like eHarmony and OkCupid, and then the quick fix dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. Because of that, women are being sucked out of that in real life dating market. So that's what's happened.
Oh
So
my
now,
God. Okay, wait. I just want the ladies to hear that because this is
yeah,
what I keep telling everyone's. All my ladies are like, where can I meet the men? I'm like,
yeah,
they're everywhere. Just
yeah.
go out. So
Yeah, but
anyway, go on.
the problem is, Kim, and we can go to this is another issue. Because women, when we were growing up, women and men had not been exposed to so many pictures of other people that it was easier for us to choose a partner.
No, the
Now,
selection fatigue is huge. Yeah,
but
no.
but it's also fake. So one of the things is
Mhm.
women will
Yeah.
go on dating apps and they'll left swipe on 6,000 men, and in their mind they're like, I'm better than these men. I could get these men to commit. In reality, they couldn't. They just think they could. They're going on dates for short-term sexual access, and they're getting attention from men that they're conflating that with like commitment, which of course they're not going to get. So this is a whole different issue. But you were asking about three tips
Yeah.
for men. So the first, I'm sorry, I got way
We'll
sidetracked.
just have to do more podcasts. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Most of my podcasts are 3 hours long. So the dating tips for men. The first one is fix your fucking Instagram. I'm sorry to use this language. You
Uh,
guys have every successive year, it becomes more and more impossible for you to compete in the dating marketplace if you do not have perfectly collated, perfectly curated social media.
wow. I love it.
Yeah.
Michael, You are just a wealth of knowledge. I love just your whole take on all of this. And, really also what you're creating, and I'm passionate about it too, is just a sense of community. I mean, I know there's strategy that you obviously have, but I think we're living in such an isolated world that more programs that you and I can do that create that sense of connection in real life, IRL, it's only going to be better for humanity
Yeah.
overall. And that's from an evolutionary standpoint. I worry about us as humans in the future because of all the like fragmentation with it. But anyway, we could go on and on, but the time has come where we must end. Do you want to just let everybody know where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Easiest way to find me, go on find Michael Sartain on Instagram. Second thing I would recommend, go to school, SKOOL.com. That's Alex Hermosi and Sam Ovens have that program called School, that new app. We're on
Mm-hmm.
School, and then just look up Men of Action Free. So you're going to go men hyphen of hyphen action hyphen free.
Thank you, Michael. It's so awesome having you here. Thanks for coming on.
Okay, man, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today, you listening. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com. And if you struggle to put yourself out there with confidence, of course, you can always book a call with me personally. Just click the link you see in the show notes and book that. I also have something that's kind of exciting and it relates to you men out there. I, for the first time, am doing this virtual speed dating event open to the public. I usually don't. I'm happy to say that it's full right now. However, I need a few good men. We have more women than we do men. So, men, if you're interested, definitely check it out. Just click the link you see in the show notes or go to stophatingdating.com, and I'd love to see you there. There's going to be a lot of amazing women. And not only is it just for practice, but you'll also get feedback on how you're coming across. First impressions are everything, as we've been talking about on this show. And if you don't know how you come across, then how do you know what to fix? This is happening December 11th. So make sure you click that. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.